Hi, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we will be recapping a 2014 science fiction film called Maze Runner. A young man wakes up in a campsite with no memory and realizes that they're all trapped in a giant maze. As they attempt to escape, they are hunted down and killed by robotic spider-looking creatures. Intrigued? Well, before we start, make sure to help us out by smashing that like button and subscribing to our channel for more awesome videos like this. Now, let's get into it. The film starts with a teenager waking up inside an underground elevator that is descending. While trying to comprehend what is going on, the elevator stops with a green light, and he finds himself in a cage with dozens of male youths above him laughing at him. He runs away from them only to fall face down. As he gets up, we are exposed to the true nature of the environment that he finds himself in. A green, grassy area with some trees to the far end, surrounded by huge walls, giving no sign of an exit. He is thrown into some sort of cell, and the leader of the group, Albie, tries to interrogate him. Albie is not surprised that the teen, who they call Greenie because he's new to the group, can't remember anything at all, including his name or why he's there. Albie decides to give him a tour. Greenie learns that the large grassy area they are in is called the Glade, and the boys are the Gladers. Albie explains to him that they have formed a kind of society where everyone assumes a certain specialized role. He also tells them that they grow their own food, build their own houses, and take care of one another. Albie tells him that his arrival was a little later than usual, and that he had something special planned for the evening. He is informed of 3 rules that govern the Gladers. The first rule is that each Glader is expected to perform their role as given, and freeloading is unacceptable. The second rule aims at preventing harm to one another, while the third rule forbade anyone from going into the walls covering them. A young boy called Chuck takes him to where he would spend the night. However, Greenie is super curious about his location and starts heading towards an entrance on the wall. Chuck is worried and rushes after him, warning him against it. 2 boys jogging around greet them, and the boy, Chuck, refers to them as runners. He explains that runners know more about the maze than anyone. Greenie's interest is piqued at the word maze, and since Chuck offers no more explanation, he starts walking toward the entrance. An older boy, Gally, knocks him down, preventing him from venturing further into the maze. Exasperated, he starts questioning the boys as to why they do not want him to leave. As he is still addressing them, a low rumbling sound from the entrance and a gust of air hits them. The walls of the maze begin closing in, locking themselves together, and the maze thuds shut. That evening, the Gladers enjoy a typical boys' night around the campfire with some whiskey. No one knows how it's made. Greenie learns more about the runners and the maze. The maze is a series of ever-changing walls that surround the Glade. The Gladers have selected some of the fastest boys to act as runners. The purpose of the runners is to comb through every inch of the maze, trying to find a possible exit. This task has been going on for 3 years with no clue or hope of an exit. One main disadvantage is that the walls change each night, making it hard to decipher a way out correctly. Since the beginning, no one had ever survived a night in the maze. This is because there were some creatures called the Grievers, which stung a person, making them delirious or killing them. The leader of the runners is a guy by the name of Minho. The boy telling Greenie all this is called Newt, and he is second in command after Albie. He does not give Greenie any other information, but rather makes him the center of attention. This does not go as expected since Gally chose this moment to humiliate Greenie, challenging him to a fight. With his small body, Greenie strikes the ground more often than he would like. He manages to throw a punch on Gally's abdomen that lands him on the floor. In retaliation, Gally sweeps him off his feet and Greenie lands on the floor where his head gets hit pretty bad. It is there on the floor that he remembers his name as Thomas. That night as he sleeps, certain flashes pass through his subconscious, but he cannot seem to put those images together. In the morning, Albie takes him to a wall that contains the names of all boys in the Glade. He asks about the names canceled and is told that those are the ones who passed on. It's a monument of sorts. In an attempt to get rid of the ever-curious Thomas, the other boys send him into the woods to fetch water. He encounters various carcasses, and still pondering on who or what animal they are, he hears movement from behind him. He turns and finds a runner called Ben, who looks sick. Ben attacks Thomas to kill him. Thomas defends himself by hitting Ben on the head with a skull. As he runs towards camp, the other boys come to his aid. It is then that Thomas learns Ben had been stung by a griever, and that the sting was making him delirious as its venom spread throughout his body. Thomas learns that there is no cure for the condition, and his delusions are a result of the changing, a term they use after one is infected. That evening, Ben is bound and forced into the maze, left to die. His name is crossed off the list, and the boys are sorrowful to have lost another of their own. Thomas continues to have flashes of memory. He sees a girl telling him all would change. He's also on some kind of operating table with a group of people looking at him. As he wakes up, he sees Albie and Minoran in the maze. The two plan to retrace Ben's steps inside the maze so that they would find the route he had taken, the one which made him encounter the creature. While they are gone, Thomas wonders how Albie can go into the maze whilst he is not a runner. He learns Albie was the first of the boys to land in the glade, making him the most experienced. It begins to rain and everyone is worried as the two are yet to return. They all assemble at the entrance, waiting for them to come out. The maze begins to close just as the two appear at the very end of the entrance. Seeing they can't make it, Thomas rushes inside to help them just as the entrance closes. Albie was stung, and Minho had to cut off his arm to control the spread. With the maze constantly changing, the three had to move to secure locations. They hoist Albie on higher ground on the wall, just as a griever approaches them for an attack. Scared, Minho runs off and encourages Thomas to do so too, but Thomas wants to secure Albie on the dangling leaves. He manages to camouflage them both into the green of the leaves. As the danger passes, Thomas walks around the maze and steps into a sticky substance. Some more of the liquid drops on him from above, and he realizes the griever is above them. As the chase ensues, Thomas tries to do everything possible to escape being stung. In the end, Thomas lures the creature into a wall that is closing in, and they manage to survive the night in the maze and return to camp the next morning, carrying an injured Albie and breaking the record. They hold a meeting where Gally proposes that Thomas be punished for running into the maze and killing a griever. He says that his action could destroy the peace that the Gladers had with the grievers. As the meeting goes on, the elevator rumbles, and for the first time a girl enters the glade, with a note saying that she would be the last one ever. She recognizes Thomas, but he can't remember her. She collapses and is taken in to rest. Thomas convinces Minho that the dead griever could contain clues as to what was happening. Minho discourages Thomas against it, but seeing that Thomas is quite adamant, he gathers some boys and they venture back into the maze to try and dissect the griever. Once they find it, they realize there is a beeping mechanical device inside it. They take the device and head back. Gally is still set that Thomas should be punished for breaking the rules. Newt, who has taken control now that Albie is injured, punishes him with a night in the pit with no food. Upon Minho's praises of Thomas's good work, he makes him a runner. Minho takes it upon himself to show Thomas a handmade map that they have of the maze, and tells him that he's run throughout the entire maze and didn't think there was hope. However, with the recent findings, he was positive that something could be done. As they go through the map, they learn the girl is awake. They find her on top of a shelter throwing stones at the boys, trying to get her to come down. Thomas calms her down and climbs up to talk with her, and realizes she does not remember anything but her name, which is Teresa. The two converse, and Thomas reveals his flashbacks and that she is the girl in them. Teresa reveals 2 syringes filled with an unknown substance. In a leap of faith, one is used on Albie, and he miraculously recovers from the griever sting. Thomas is led to the cave, and Chuck brings him food. He has a carving that he says was given to him by his parents. He offers it to Thomas, but Thomas refuses it, saying Chuck will find a way of taking it home. The next morning, Minho and Thomas venture into the maze. Before being interrupted earlier, the two had discovered that the maze has numbered sections that open and close in regular sequence. Thomas realizes the number on the device corresponding to the section 7 in the maze, and that is what they are running to, section 7. Minho admits to never seeing the place, and when they reach a dead end, the device leads them to a certain hole-like area. The two are scanned with a laser, and the exits begin to close. The two start running away as traps activated by the lasers nearly squash them. That evening, Thomas reveals that they may have found a way out of the maze. Gally is still conservative and is resisting all the possible ideas that Thomas comes up with. Albie wakes up, and he remembers Thomas as part of the team responsible for the maze. The maze entrance does not close that evening, and the other maze entrances begin to open. Grievers start pouring into the glade, attacking everyone. The Gladers run to hide as the Grievers start to kill everyone and destroy anything they encounter. A massacre ensues in which many boys are killed. Killing the Grievers proves futile by fire, as they quickly extinguish themselves. The rest hide in the underground cave, where Albie helps Chuck from getting attacked and ends up dying instead. Gally punches Thomas in the gut, blaming him for everything that happened. Feeling guilty, Thomas stabs himself with a severed griever stinger that Albie had broken in an attempt to revive his memory. The others inject him with the last syringe of antivenom. Thomas comes to the cave with Teresa by his side with Chuck, Minho, and Newt above him. He then reveals that he and Teresa used to work for the organization behind the maze called Wicked, watching and experimenting on the boys for years. Newt, Minho, and Chuck are quick to forgive, saying it did not matter who he and Teresa were before, but how they planned to finish and get them out of the maze. Gally has taken control of the glade and decides to offer Teresa and Thomas as an offering to restore peace with the Grievers. However, several Gladers free them and head into the maze to try and find the route home. With motivation, they are set to rather die than stay behind without looking for an exit. Gally and a few others refuse to leave. Fighting grievers on the way, the team reaches the laser entry, which requires a password. With time being of the essence, Thomas asks Minho for the sequence in which the maze sections change, and it turns out to be the correct password. The team enters a long passageway that seems deserted. Opening the first door they encounter, Thomas and his team find corpses all over in some sort of damaged lab. Looking at all the computers in there, they learn that they were being watched and monitored. They find a video recording of a doctor, Eva Page, who explains that the sun had scorched the world, leading to billions of deaths due to fire and drought. A deadly virus had emerged which affected the brain, and they called it the flare. The teens were part of a generation that could not get the virus, and trials were conducted on them to develop a cure. Paige shoots herself as the lab is overtaken by armed men. Suddenly, a door opens, and they all begin to wonder whether it is over. Gally appears with a gun and has delusions after being stung by a griever. He says that they should stay in the maze. Clearly out of his mind, he aims the gun at Thomas. As Gally takes the shot, Minho impales him with a spear and he dies. Suddenly, Chuck moans Thomas's name. He has taken a fatal wound from the gunshot. He dies in Thomas's arms after handing him the artifact he had from his past. As they lay there in sadness and sorrow, armed men come and lead them out of the lab quickly into a waiting helicopter that flies over a vast desert wasteland and approaches a ruined city. The film ends with Dr. Page, who had shot herself, talking to a group of scientists presumed dead, announcing the beginning of Phase 2 trials and how a large number of survivors from the maze had exceeded her expectations. Thomas is mentioned as the new hope for the future, leaving us hopeful that the story will continue. And that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure you subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all our latest releases. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.